Mindfulness changes our neural pathways. It shrinks our amygdala, which means reduces our emotional reactivity to external stimuli. It increases prefrontal cortex thickness, which allows us to more rationally think about our choices. Gratitude rewires our brain from negativity bias to a positivity bias around what we already have versus what we don't have. High performance demands high well being. The path to high performance does not run through burnout and no recoveries and only focusing on one dimension. Most people in business focus on one dimension: revenue, profit, shareholders. That is not the path to success. That is not the path to success.
Welcome to the Growing with Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Jean Moncrieff, and we're going behind the scenes with very special leaders, learning about what shaped them into who they are in life and in business.
Welcome to the Growing with Purpose podcast. It's so great to have you on.
It's such a delight. Thank you for having me, John. It was so wonderful to have you and Courtney here when you visited. We're so aligned in our missions and how we see the world. So thank you for having me. Delighted to be here.
I mean, I've been looking forward to this since we sat in your back garden in Boulder with Lizzie, your wife, and Ashwin. I mean, what a remarkable young man, sharing bagels together and just having that conversation with you and your family, but how your story captures something that leaders wrestle with, that tension between kind of outer success and inner fulfillment, and the way we spoke about that. And since then, I've been wanting to get you on and have this conversation with you. But maybe if we kind of go back to, you grew up in India at an early age, and then you rose through the ranks of McKinsey, one of the most demanding consulting firms or environments, I imagine, in the world. And we were just talking about startups being demanding, but McKinsey has to be one of those as well. And then this profound personal transformation that ultimately led you to writing Hardwired for Happiness, which I've really been enjoying, and forming the Happiness Squad. So why don't we kind of start there and tell us a little bit about how you started out back in India, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I think, and my story, I think is every story is unique, but I think it's a story that probably so many go through, John. I think fundamentally it's a story that it's a from success to significant story. It's a story that saw me chase and buy into all the beliefs that so many of us buy into, which is hustle, hard work, perfection is the path to success and hence happiness. I picked that up very early at the age of 7, where nothing but perfection mattered. My mom was a PhD gold medalist in calculus. My father was one of the top, she was the state toppers in India in engineering. There was always a high bar on like academics and we used to get graded in India. Even when you're in a kindergarten, you get like, out of 100, how many points did you get? And I remember once coming home and I had 97 on 100. And, my mom and dad were wonderful. They've been big forces of positivity in my life, but they also have a high bar. So they said, look, you got 97, you could have gotten 100. Knowing you probably were out playing. If you just checked your answer, you could have got 100. And that was really meant to be an encouragement to be your best. But I interpreted that as to be loved, and for them to kind of be proud of me, I had to have 100. That ended up shaping my life, right? Hustle, work hard, nothing but perfection. Got into IIT. And from there, it's one of the toughest schools to get into in India. 1% entrance is acceptance rate. And from there, came to the US and continued that path of I was going to out hustle anyone. I was going to work hard, go for perfection. No surprise, success followed, right? No surprise. Like if you are willing to be persistent, work harder than somebody else, learn, don't take no for an answer, say yes to everything you want that is offered to you, reach for things that are not even offered for you because you're willing to go for it. If you do all that, continuously, day in, day out. I mean, there was a period where I was in consulting, John. I was traveling 5 days a week, remotely, I was in school all day Saturday, and I was Sunday studying on Sundays and late in the nights, 120 hours a week. Anybody who's willing to do that, I can tell you, no matter what your talent is, you will be successful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But at the end of that success, where I found myself, I'd made partner in 6.5 years at McKinsey, starting as an associate, continued doing great work. But what I will also tell you, 100% you will be successful. 100 success, you will have anxiety, you will have stress, and you will be at risk of burnout.
But
So
that
that's what I
success
found.
comes with a whole handful of sort of negative things. So I was curious about how your parents' expectations sort of shape your drive and I guess your definition of success early on.
Yeah,
Um,
it definitely did, right? Because, and it wasn't their expectation. So this is the other interesting thing in life, right? Um, we project what people's expectations are. If I
yeah,
ask them even then, or anybody, any parent out there, you're a parent. What do you want most for Courtney?
yeah. I mean, I think about Courtney. I just want to. I mean, ultimately, I wanted to have a great life and to grow up happy and to sort of work in a
That's it.
wonderful environment. And those are the things. And I suppose you're right. You know, as a parent, those are the expectations. But as a kid, we never bothered to really ask. And your parents probably cared deeply about you, and they wanted you to have that. And that's where that kind of push came from, right?
Yeah, and this is what I mean. We project what people want from us
Yeah.
sometimes. Sometimes they do want things from us. But my mom never said you need to get into IIT, you need to get the perfect scores, you need to actually be a partner, you need to be successful. None of that was explicitly said, but that was implicitly assumed, and I was living into my own version of what I think others wanted. And I got there, and I bought into the story, and at the end of that success journey, the end of the first mountain, I would gonna have a pot of gold, and the pot of gold was happiness and enjoyment of life and my family. And what I found was I had green lights everywhere.
Yeah.
Family was great. I had Ashwin, who was 3. We were living in Boulder. We had just moved to the house that you were at. I had just started an office in Denver. I was doing really well at McKinsey. My parents were great. I always had a rich community. Green lights. But was I happy? No, I was waking up with anxiety every morning, not knowing why. And I think that's the story with so many people. And we don't necessarily talk about that with others because who wants, we have gotten so used in the last 25 years, John, to an Instagram life. We think
Yeah.
everybody has an Instagram life. And so if your life doesn't look like rainbows and sunshines and unicorns and joyful moments, and you feel there's something wrong with you, right? So you kind of hold it in. You also normalize stories like, well, if I have to be successful, that's what's required. And I think that's what needs to shift. It needs to shift for startups founders, it needs to shift for professionals to realize that there is a different way. There is a different way where you can actually be successful without burnout. As
Because it's
successful,
one.
if not more successful.
It is the
Yeah.
one thing we've got some control over is like what is our own definition of success rather than looking at what other people are doing. So what is that definition of success for us?
Absolutely, right? So I think there are two pieces there that I love. I think one is, what is your definition of success? What does success look like?
Yeah.
Um, and I would even as go far as to say, because a lot of people are like, yeah, you guys sitting there comfortable talking about success because you're already successful. If I'm struggling, I would like to get to your
Yeah.
success and then have a conversation of what success look like, right?
Yeah.
So the first one I would say is, success should look like service. And if you're a startup founder, or if you're an executive in the company, go back to the origin of the company. The origin of the company and success was not profits, what not exit, was not the billions. Every company starts with an idea about service, about providing a product or service to somebody to make their life better. Often it comes from our own need of something that we're missing. That's what is the seed. Along the way, it becomes about profits. We forget why
Yeah.
we started the company in the first place, right? Success is a life well lived. Success is a virtuous life. Success is not a life without suffering. Success is a life where we have learned to suffer well, where we have learned to take suffering and turn it into something of value. So we can talk about the definition of success and really re-examining it, and it did make a big difference for me. But I will say this too, John. Even if your definition of success is the same definition that everybody else has, even if that's the case, in the case of sports, I work with a lot of organizations in the U.S. Olympic movement, USA Gymnastics, USA Ski and Snowboard. I've done work with some this U.S. Athletic Track and Field. Look at any Olympian out there. They will tell you, without practicing holistic well-being, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, social, occupational, and number two, integrating recoveries into their workout regimen, they will not be successful. They will have injuries and they will not be able to reach their Olympic dream, right? So imagine that. The chances of startup succeeding are pretty much at the same level as for you to start training to become an Olympian. And yet, when we know in sports, we watch sports, we admire these players, we know what allows them to perform at that level, we somehow forget and we have this cognitive dissonance around how we can be at our best. We go years without holidays, we are on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. We literally forget and somehow leave behind all the neuroscience behind how we are at our best, and we just burn out. We burn out, or even if we are successful, we don't enjoy it. And for me, John, this is as much grounded in research as me search. I can tell you, I played the same game at McKinsey my last 7 years at the firm versus my first 10 years at the firm. Fundamentally different. Same game, same output, same definition of success. But here's what changed. As I started integrating the practices from the book in my life, I was getting done more between 9 to 6 than it used to take me from 6 to 9. And so my invitation to your listeners is, yes, change our definition of success, because what we buy into in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter. But even if you don't want to change it because you're like, I want to first get to a level that I want to change the game, change the way you track and execute on that success. Because high performance demands high well-being. High performance at the cost of well-being is a sure short path to burnout. And even if you don't burn out, you're going to hate the journey.
Yeah, that's so true. You are. You absolutely going to hate it. It's just going to be a grind.
Yeah.
And that's not worth it.
It is not worth it. It is so not worth it, right? I mean, you're gonna lose relationships. You're gonna leave precious time with your kids. You're gonna sacrifice your health. And then even if you are successful, you'll spend wealth trying to buy back health, and you can't turn back the clock. Trust me, I know it. I've done it.
Yeah.
I don't speak from being perfect, right? Like, I wish I could turn back the clock from my 20s and 30s and not extract so much from my body that I'm now trying to recover back. It's real.
So, I'm curious about what triggered your transformation. You came back, or you come to the States. You joined IBM originally, and you set about kind of climbing the corporate ladder, right? Just go, and having grown up the way you did in India and the way you described things a moment ago, you obviously thought, well, if I just work my ass off, I'm going to get to where I want to go. I don't know if you'd already thought about kind of being a partner in McKinsey or where you wanted to go, but you put your head down and you just decided to get where you needed to go. And then you talk about the last 7 years in McKinsey being very different. What happened? What was the transformation that you went through as a leader that really changed you? What triggered that? What was going on in your life?
Well, I am very blessed, John. For many people, life wakes us up at some point. Sometimes it doesn't wake us up so nicely as it did for me. Sometimes people wake up, they have an accident, they have a stroke, they lose a
Yeah.
relationship, they get fired. Something externally happens that shocks their way of life, that makes them question what they're living.
It's because we just
Luckily,
keep withdrawing. Ultimately, the withdrawals kind of add up,
right, they add
right?
up. They add up. You go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, I didn't go bankrupt. But
And we talk
what
about bankrupt, we're talking about health, mental, not just, we're not
all
talking
of
about
that.
financial bankrupt here, we're
We're
talking
not
about
talking about financial.
family.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, it manifested in anxiety because the work that I was doing and the way I was doing it was not at all connected to what gives me, to who I am, what I care about, and my body. So it was manifesting in anxiety. And because it was so bad every morning, it made me, for the first time, John, start to question and again use my driver, I'm going to solve this problem mind to say, I want to find the source of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to solve it by taking pills or talking to a therapist. I want to find the source. And that's what got me searching for wisdom in spiritual traditions. It got me searching in the field of psychology. It got me searching in the field of neuroscience because I was trying to find an answer to my struggle with why am I anxious? I can't even point to a thing that I'm anxious about. And yet I'm anxious.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's,
And once I started that journey, I started realizing that there is so much wisdom, there is so much science that we are just not taught. There is thousands of years of wisdom in Buddhism, Yoga Sutras, the Quran, the Bible, Taoism, Stoicism, around a way of living, which really makes you start to question your definition of success and an alternative way to get there. And then there was all of this work in the field of positive psychology that had been done in 25 years that showed powerful interventions that can change the way we experience the world. I started playing around with those. And the third thing is I started reading all of this work around neuroscience, how our brains evolved, how we make sense of threat. And what they were finding was these ancient practices, these secular practices that had been validated by psychologists, actually work because our neural pathways change.
yeah.
Right? Mindfulness changes our neural pathways. It shrinks our amygdala, which means reduces our emotional reactivity to external stimuli. It increases prefrontal cortex thickness, which allows us to more rationally think about our choices. Gratitude rewires our brain from negativity bias to a positivity bias around what we already have versus what we don't have.
Which is
Right?
so
So, I mean,
important
they're
today, right?
so important,
So
so
important.
important. And so
It,
for me, my transformation of leadership, John, was an inside out transformation. I started working on myself rather than trying to show up differently out there. But the way over time, my inner structure of my brain and my sense making and my inquisition around these questions of who am I, as I changed, the world around me started changing. Uh, and that's the big shift, right? Because oftentimes when we talk about leaders, we talk about what leaders do,
yeah.
but we don't often talk
And
about who leaders are, from where are they operating. And that was the shift for me.
so you're struggling with this anxiety, and essentially, one day you decide that you're basically going to try and figure this thing out. You almost set off on Ashish's own hero's journey for, as you talk about in the book, to go and
I started on
solve
my
this.
own hero's journey. Yes, and my Gandalf, right? My
Yeah, I
Gandalf
was
for
good.
the Frodo that I was, or Obi-Wan Kenobi for the Luke that I was, came in the form of two teachers. Um, One was Amy Fox. She runs Mobius and Joanne. I had a chance to go to this retreat in Portugal, where for a week we were really, I got introduced to meditation. I got introduced to kind of this deeper introspection of who you are. Um, And that week was transformative for me. They really showed me the path forward of how I could find my answer. Till then, I was just kind of floundering like you are in the water, right? Like I was throwing my hands everywhere. But that week was so powerful because three things happened that week. Um, One, on the third day, as we were doing things, I started meditating in the morning. We were off devices. We were having really deep connection, human to human, deep conversations with others. I did a labyrinth walk. I did some assessment around why I was the way I was. It was that time that I actually went all the way to my 7-year-old story of perfection,
Yeah.
John. I hadn't thought about that. I was just living that truth rather than questioning the truth. But the effect was on the third day, I woke up with no anxiety after 18 months of waking up with anxiety every day. I can still remember that day so vividly because all of a sudden, the anxiety wasn't there. Right. And I was like, oh my God, like this is what it feels like to wake up without your knees up to your chest and bile in your throat.
In a crawled up in a ball and
In a,
feeling
right.
sick,
Uh,
as you say, bile in your throat. Yeah.
so I'm like, I know this work works because I was seeing the effect on me. Second, through this discovery of who I was, who I am, what drives me, what is my core, again, something that had been running as an undercurrent in my life that I had just not even thought about actually became the overcurrent of my life. See, I had a story that I had been successful because I'd worked hard and I was willing to, go or pull all nighters and do and say yes to everything and really dedicate myself to making my clients successful and making the sacrifices. And that week, I realized my core essence, the thing that drove me all the way through, had been relationships. It was relationships which
Hmm.
had allowed me, as a young associate at another firm before McKinsey, bring the largest client to the firm. It was relationships that had been at the heart of the work that I was doing. My clients chose to work with me and trusted me not because of my brain and what I was telling them, but because of how we connected. I mean, I was in touch with people. I've been in touch with people, John, from the first day started working till now.
I,
Relationships in
I'm
that web had been there.
I'm curious though. You talk about this in the book and the importance of relationships and the different types of relationship. But had you always been? I love the way you talked about treating relationships as assets,
Yes,
and not in any kind of uh, like they just sort of, but really caring about them as assets. Have you always had this from a young age, this view on relationships are really important part of my life and I need to nurture them? And
it was always unconscious, not conscious.
yeah.
What was
Okay.
conscious was I love people. I've always loved people. I've always been incredibly curious about people's stories. And I've always been moved to be able to connect somebody with somebody else. I never did it explicitly to build relationships, but I was always in relation with others,
Just part of who
right?
you are. Yeah.
That was part of who I am. And that's, even like to this day, almost every day I call people on their birthdays. And many times I won't hear back. And even if I haven't heard back from people, I will still call them because it doesn't matter what they do. It is just me. And many times people will be like, oh my God, like I can't believe you called me.
Yeah.
Uh, right. And for me, it gives me joy. Relation, that is who I am. That was my essence. Um, but even for those who are not, knowing now all the research behind the power of relationships, the quality of relationships. This is the Harvard work done by Waldinger, 80 plus years now. It shows the quality of one's life and success is driven by the quality of your relationship. 60% of it can be explained by that. And I think even for those who that is not their core nature, I think it's something that I talk heavily about. Invest in your relationships, care for people, start with caring for those who we take for granted all the time. Start with
Yeah.
caring for your family. Start with caring and connecting with your friends. Start with caring for your colleagues. Start with caring for those you interact with. in the community around you. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot. And yet, most of us go through life treating people as invisible.
You know, it's something that as you talk about it, I just sort of realized there was something I saw in your son that maybe I couldn't quite have put my finger on until we started talking about this. Now, it wasn't as much about relationships, but when I met Ashwin, he felt genuinely curious about who I am,
Yes.
and was very confident, but very curious, and asked loads of questions and would kind of jump straight into questions. I don't know if that's something that you've kind of instilled in him, or because anxiety is such a big problem with young people at the moment, and I think that was, I can kind of put it on my finger on that. Confidence and curiosity just kind of shone through in him, and
Yeah.
it was remarkable.
Confidence, curiosity, and action. I think he's picked it up. I mean, I never thought about it
Yeah,
that way till you've now said it. But yeah, he's always been curious and he is very confident,
yeah,
sometimes
he's
almost
very confident.
overconfident about his point of views, even though they're not grounded in facts. But yeah, always confident and very curious. He's always curious. And I think he's always had that about him from a very young age, right? And he's also got a very caring heart, which is the other, I think, important factor. I think that is a big guiding force in his life and in my life. Um,
Yeah, I
it
mean,
is
I
very
just think about
hard.
anxiety, and yeah,
Yeah, it's very hard, John, in today's world to walk with an open heart. It's very
walk that
hard to
back a
walk
bit
with an
more
open heart,
for the audience. It's yeah, I love that.
right? We talk about having an open mind. We think about having other people's perspective. We are in a world which is
Yeah,
becoming increasingly polar, right? Left, right. Think about the U.S. wants to be just focused on U.S. England just wants to be focused on England. Everybody else out. Everywhere we have this left and the right. Even within countries, the left and the right are kind of becoming more and more polar. There's a big divide happening between the rich and the poor. We're getting
yeah,
wider and wider. That gap continues to grow. There's a gap between large companies and small companies, 30 to 50% productivity gaps. There are gaps between, how minorities and kind of the rest of the world thinks about. In every place, the gaps are getting bigger and bigger. What I mean by having and also our how it used to be, we all used to read newspapers, right? And newspapers, we regarded reporters because it provided both perspectives. Today, most people get their news, unfortunately, through TikTok, uh,
yeah.
right? Or Facebook or whatever social media channel or YouTube. And they're not middle. You either get the left or the right, or you either get one point of view or the other point of view. They're never balanced. And so our minds are constantly getting, what I want to highlight is this is a fact. You cannot avoid it unless you have all the time in the world to take every issue and read 5 papers about it, right? Go listen to the same news story on Fox in the US and now go listen to it on NBC and
And then go to
CNN,
CNN, go somewhere else, and yeah, and get all the
right?
different perspectives. You don't have
Then
the
go to
time for it,
local
right?
news. You don't have the
Mm,
time for it. So, what I'm telling you is, you are going to be biased. You're only going to have one side. So, open mind, while a great exercise, is just know that the information you're consuming is biased. But open heart, in the end, the information about people, every person is born all they want. Just like as parents want their kids to be happy, every person wants to be happy. Every person wants to feel cared for. That's what we all solve for. We are all human. And as much as we think things divide us, there are more things that unite us. There are more things we have with people in common. We breathe the same air, right? We are so richly interweaved in this world, across the planet, across races, across different employments. Just think about, you and I are both wearing glasses, right? Just take even a
yeah,
simple thing like this, right? The glass, how many hands were involved in actually wearing this glass? The optician who diagnosed, right? The doctor who diagnosed and get the
yeah,
number. the person who built that office where that happened, the company that built the equipment that was used to diagnose, the people who built the paper, the one who used the pen or the computer,
Yeah, the
the person
software.
who manufactured the glass, the person who shipped the glass, the person who mined the raw material for the glass. There are hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, whose hands were involved in something as simple that
Yeah, I
glasses
was
through which we can
putting a set of
see.
glasses together. Yeah,
You don't need to know who they are, but we can keep an open heart and wish them well. We can keep an open heart about the suffering in the world, about the suffering in our workplaces. And we can choose to be a positive agent of flourishing. That's what I mean. It's so hard because it's easy when our brains are kind of, biased. I read this quote and it's sitting with me even now. It's been 7 days. What I mean by open heart is saying, how can you be kind to another even when they might not deserve it?
mm.
Even
Because
when
that
they might
kindness
not
would go a
deserve it.
long way. Yeah, I hear you.
That's what I mean by open heart. And it can
I love it,
transform our
man.
lives.
Yeah, and I mean, just that act of kindness. You don't know what kind of day that person's having, where they're coming from, what's going on, but that act of kindness could completely change things for them, change their
Yeah.
day. And yeah,
I
yeah,
fundamentally believe no one, and even if they have not had it that day and they show up this way, I go back, open heart. When somebody is born, nobody's born. Nobody's born evil or hard or insensitive or uncaring or self serving.
yeah,
Look at any kid. Go do this experiment yourself. Go look around and see how many kids, one, two, three, are operating that way. You'll find majority are not.
yeah,
Something in their life's experience made them into who they are right now. And if somebody
yeah,
has become hardened, they've had a hard life. We can be compassionate about that journey for them and wish them well, even if today they are not something that we admire.
yeah. Just opening your heart. So you go through this transformation, and you're still at McKinsey, right?
Yeah,
You spend another 7 years with McKinsey
I
before
said
you
7 more
start.
years.
7 more years, McKinsey, but things are changing for you. The way you're working is becoming a bit easier. You in fact downed your working hours with McKinsey a little bit to 70%, if I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken, right? And you
and
start
kept
focusing
getting the
on
same output. And kept
and
getting the same output.
and we were just talking about startups earlier, about how they sort of startup owners hustle, hack, all the H words, um, but aren't living this holistic sort of life. But you changed at McKinsey and you started doing less hours, and you're still getting the same amount of output. And this is a high
Yeah,
performance environment.
absolutely. I started taking agency. I started talking about what is success, and I played the same game, right? Like every system, every game has rules. Every game has a definition of how do you win or lose, right? Every game has it. You
Yeah,
can't play a game without rules. Like imagine if basketball had said, "Hey, let's change, right? How we keep score." Like there won't be a game. There'll just be something else. So every game has a rule. Every firm has a rule. Every system has a rule. So there is a rule, right? We measure success. Every partner, we measure success based on the impact you're having on the clients, what you're building for the firm in terms of new knowledge, something new that you're creating, and are you leading those who are junior to you and collaborating with others to, in a way that grows everyone.
yeah,
So I kept playing the same game. I just changed how I played the game. Even though I was 70%, I was 3.5 days a week. My client impact in terms of results as well as in terms of our fees actually stayed the same. My impact around knowledge actually really skyrocketed because we built a whole new offering around adaptability and resilience in the midst of COVID. And my people scores skyrocketed
Skyrocket.
because all of a sudden I was showing up in my true self, right? I was showing through my way. Look, I always cared for people. I always cared and I asked them, and my teams always um, were pretty balanced. But now, because I was showing up more balanced, it gave them permission to really be balanced rather than, yeah, Ashish is saying it, but I still need to do all of these things. But when they started me showing up that way, hey, I don't do calls on Mondays and Fridays unless it's a client call. They're like, wait, what? That means I don't have to do a call after 6 p.m. if I choose
Yeah, because
not to?
you're setting
Yes.
the boundaries and you're demonstrating the boundaries, and
I'm role
you're living
modeling
by
it,
them. You're role modeling it, yeah, as a leader,
right?
and that's so
I
important.
I yeah, I started calling. Usually when a partner calls somebody, it's to ask them to do something. I once called a person and I said, "How are you?" And he said, "I'm fine. Tell me what I can do." I said, "No, I'm just calling to see how you are." And there was silence at the end of the line. They're like, uh, I said, "No, I'm just calling to see how you're doing. How is the project going for you? How are you?" And he's like, "I've never been asked that question in 7 years." I think people start engaging, and I think as I changed, as I slowed down, as I started not running on fumes, as I allowed my heart to open, it created a curiosity, and I started showing up differently, and that started having an effect on clients, on my teams. So yes, my output in terms of the traditional measure stayed the same, but my output in terms of knowledge, in terms of people, skyrocketed. And I was
Yeah,
doing a lot less. And that's what is possible, Jean, through this work, right? Is we can, and that's what the Olympians, every coach of a high performing athlete will tell you that. High performance demands high well being. The path to high performance does not run through burnout and no recoveries and only focusing on one dimension. Most people in business focus on one dimension: revenue, profit, shareholders. That is not the path to success. That is
yeah,
not the path to success. And you and I know from the research on flourishing, if you flourish, those companies actually drive 2 to 3.5% alpha. They win. They
that's
are more
right. Yeah,
profitable. They're more productive. But it's important. Treat that as a side effect rather than the main goal of a business, the main goal of your life. The main goal of a business is to provide service to others, to serve a higher purpose. The main goal of your life is to have an impact on others and to enjoy the journey and leave every place better. The main goal of your life is not to accumulate dollars. Remember this, friends. We are
mm,
born with
so
nothing
true.
and you're going to leave with nothing. Nothing.
Yeah,
Not even a piece of cloth. Forget about the millions in your bank. We come with nothing, we leave with nothing. And yet we spend all of our life obsessing over what's my bank account.
accumulating. Yeah,
It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. In the
yeah.
grand scheme, it doesn't matter. So if we reorient going back to what is significance for a business and what is significance for an individual, it can allow us, funnily enough, to be more successful than just chase success.
Because then once we get that right, then the outputs come in. And a much kind of simpler example of this is I'm back in South Africa right now, summertime, and I'm trying to get back in a bit of surfing. And my instructor sat down with me on the beach today and he said, sit next to me. I just want to work on your breathing with you. You need to get out to the back. You need to be able to catch the waves. Look at all the other guys are just exercising, stretching, and then they're paddling out. You need to get your breathing right. If you get your breathing right, you're not going to get tired. It's a more holistic approach. And hey, I mean, perfectly right. I'm used to meditation. I'm used to breathing and that. But just that act of this is how you need to do this for surfing. Let me coach you on this more holistic approach. It just made
Yeah.
it so much easier. Simple
You know,
example.
Simple example. And the beauty of this, what you just highlighted, is the following, John. Many people think, wow, that's such a different world. And that's a big transformation. And I say, look at nature if you want to see the nature of transformation. Our world around us, at least in Boulder, we go through 4 distinct seasons, right? Spring, we're out. Summer, then it's fall, it's beautiful outside, the leaves are changing, and then it's winter. Dramatic differences. If I take a snapshot in February, in May, in
I've lived in
October,
Colorado, I know.
right? Very different. Like the same place looks completely different. Transformation. But think about the transformation. It doesn't, like today you wake up and everything's changed. No, it's slow. It's gradual. But it's dramatic. Look at landscapes around us. Slow transformations over millions of years. Dramatic landscapes. Whether you go to Grand Canyon, whether you go look at the mountains, whether you go look at valleys. Change does not need to be dramatic. Change can be slow. Change is always imperfect, which means you'll move forward and then you'll fall back. And change is possible with every breath. You don't have to wait till the end of the week, till the end of the month, till the end of the day, till the end of the hour, till the end of the minute. Every second is an opportunity for change. Every second, every breath. So you can start small, you can start now.
Let's get into that, because we talked about this when we kicked off. I read your book. There's some great ideas in there, and I think, okay, I'm going to go and apply some of the 9 principles that you wrote about. And I think so many of us do. Or even if I go back to you taking that time in Portugal, you go away, you go to a retreat, you come back, you've got the right intentions, you get started, and all of a sudden you something goes wrong and you fall off the wagon. You go out, have too many drinks, so you don't get up, you don't meditate, whatever it is. And I think that's where we think, okay, well, before you know it, you've slipped back to being normal, or back to what it was before. Something you said before we started was, and saying right now, there's always that opportunity to just pick up and go back to that practice. And the other thing I love about your work is small steps. Like, I think in the book you talk about doing against the wall press ups. Just get out of bed, do 2 in the morning, just these very kind of small steps. And that's what you work with leaders on, right?
Yeah. So that's, change is hard.
Yeah.
Right? Change is hard because there is inertia. There is a way we become, right? It's embodied, it's somatic. It's hard. So the way to start is small. And we designed a program called Rewire. It was grounded in how my change happened. And we've run this now with over, 5,000 people across, 12 companies. And the way we do it is 3 elements of change to make it sustainable. First, make it small. So all of our program is around micro practices that we introduce once a month. 1 to 2 micro practices that are 5 minutes or less, right? The simplest micro practices people start with. I know it's crazy that this is such a big micro practice for 80% of people. Don't wake up with a phone.
Yeah.
Get an alarm clock.
Big one.
Just simple. Here, I'm not even asking you to do something. I'm asking you to do something different, right?
Yeah. You're still going
to wake up without a phone. Alarm.
Just don't have the phone, right?
Just don't have a phone. Because what happens when you have a phone? Like, you look at it and right away you're training your brain to be in a sympathetic response, in a stress response. So don't train your brain to do something you don't want, right? So there are simple practices like this. We introduce them once a month. And the second important point is, this, John, the 9 practices that are in the book, there's some that will work for you, some they're not. So there is an importance of agency and choice. So we run the program as a way for people to choose the practices out of 32 micro practices that will work for them. If they choose 3 to 5 in a day, it can change their lives. That's the second. It's repetition over big things, and it's autonomy and agency. Choose your own. And then the third is, we know when we practice, if we want to build something new, if we do it in community, higher chances we'll stick to it.
Yeah.
So we do it as a whole group. We put people in peer groups of 3 to 5. Go do it together, because they will help you get back on the saddle, right? And then the last thing, I always say this when we do this work, when we come together, I say, look, your inner critic is going to be beating you every day when you miss a step. Listen to it, but don't let it drive you. It's trying to do good by you. It's trying to get you to shame you to do something you want. But you don't need to feel shame to do it. We can take the advice and then we can translate that into a coach that says, oh, you missed it yesterday. No worries. Like yesterday, you were describing my yesterday.
Yeah.
I had one Manhattan too many, and so I woke up late and I didn't have time to meditate. Right? So now I can beat myself and say, oh my God, I didn't meditate. What a terrible person. How did you have all that? Or I can also go down the second path and say, okay, no worries, I'll meditate tomorrow.
Saddle up
Or I can
the
say,
next thing.
right,
Yeah.
I'll meditate tomorrow. Or I can say, yeah, I didn't actually get a chance to meditate today. But this moment, this breath, if you and I just take 6 breaths together, I can meditate right now. I can take 6 breaths. It might not be 15, 30 minutes, but I can practice what I want to practice right now. In between now and the next meeting, whatever I do, I can be present with it and I
Yeah.
can meditate. It's about staying in practice. It's not about how you do it, how much you do it. And that's the magic. So I don't even have to wait till another day. You can do it now. Like you missed workout today. No problems. As John, you said, go stand on a wall and do a push-up. You can't do a push-up, go do a squat. You can't do that, go touch your toes.
Just do something. Yeah.
Do something, right? You forgot to do gratitude today. It doesn't matter. Just send a friend a text and say thank you for something they did or being a part of your life. Action
It's
is what we need.
consistency, right? Consistency over sort of
That's it.
trying to do something big.
Well, yeah, just do something small. Make it as small as you can.
Yeah. I'm curious, Ashish, after kind of focusing all this and writing the book Hardwired for Happiness, what are some of the misconceptions people have got about happiness at the moment?
Yeah, happiness, so many misconceptions. First is you can always be happy. People get asked me, are you happy all the time? I'm like, no. Right? Like if you're happy all the time, how would you even know what happy is?
You wouldn't know what it feels like, right? Because you don't have the downs to know what it feels like.
If you're always in light, how would you know what dark is? How would you, like we just get attuned to it. So, and by the way, if you think about happiness as an emotion is what they're really talking about. If you look at our 6 core emotions, 4 out of the 6 are negative. Right?
Yeah.
4 out of the 6 negative core primary emotions. Anger, anxiety,
yeah,
sadness. Right? They're not positive. Shame, right?
Yeah.
They're not positive. The 2 positive ones are happy and peace, right? Or kind of curiosity. The other 4 are not. Why? Because our brain has a negativity bias. So no, you'll always have suffering because think about any unpleasant emotion that happens. It happens because something that we care about doesn't go the way we want. Friends, if everything in your world went the way you want, where will there be place for me?
True.
Or for anybody else? Things will never go the way you want.
Yeah.
So that's the first misconception. Yeah. What we talk about this work is being able to be joyful as a way of being so we can deal with suffering externally. As I said, we can suffer well. That's what the Stoics talked about. How can we learn to suffer well? We know suffering will be a part of life. That's what Buddha talked about. Suffering is a part of life. How can we suffer well?
Yeah, so true. Yeah.
Right? Number 2 is most people we play this game all the time. Even I play this even now, all the time. You have to just catch yourself playing it and decide to stop playing that game. The game is the if then else. If I get this, then I will be happy.
Yeah, it's so true. It never happens, does it? You kind of get it and then it's off to the next thing, right? I think we were talking about this at your home. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the constant, like stop playing the if then game. You can choose to be happy right now. You can still go after stuff. I'm not saying don't go after it. Just don't tie your happiness to the outcome. It's timeless wisdom of the Gita. Gita has this quote. It says, Karmanya vadhukaraste ma phaleshu kadachan. It says, never be guided by the fruit. Don't get tied to the outcome. Your focus should be on doing the right action. You don't control the fruit of that action. Don't be tied to the fruit of the action. It's timeless wisdom. It's
Yeah.
timeless, right? Most athletes, when they take a shot, they focus on the shot. They're not focusing on did it land. If you focus on where the basket goes, you will not, that shot won't go.
Yeah, you got to
Focus on
focus
the
on the
action.
shot, right? On the action,
You
yeah.
got to focus on the
Yeah.
action, right? It's true all around. So I think that's the second myth that people fall into is they get all tied about the outcome and they actually don't put enough attention on the action and learning from it. And then the third one, is this notion that, okay, I got it. I can chase happiness. The pursuit of happiness, those who pursue happiness are unhappier. Why? Because what are you pursuing? The happiness pursuit focuses you so much on yourself, your state. Am I happy right now? Are things working out for me right now? Happiness ensues by living a virtuous life. A virtuous life that is in the service of another, that is about appreciating all that we have rather than all that we don't have. So,
Yeah.
all the research shows that you don't pursue happiness. Those who pursue are mostly unhappy.
Or
You
destined to be
pursue
unhappy, yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
pursue purpose. You pursue service. You pursue significance. You pursue kinship. You pursue, um, you know, training your brain to be positive rather than negative. Uh, you pursue really going deep to know your own beliefs and how they are becoming your own prison and starting to shed those. Those are the things you pursue. You never pursue happiness. But if you're successful in that,
Then
happiness
yeah.
ensues.
Happiness ensues, yeah. Have you got time for a few quick questions? How are you doing there?
Sure, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so what's something that people don't know about you? Something that most people wouldn't know about you?
Oh my God. One of the things that very few people know about this, those who know me well do, but I used to race motorcycles, right? So, like this person who's I used to race motorcycles in India. I
Wow.
was kind of the speed demon. So, I've lived that life. Um, I don't drive them now just because it's too dangerous in the US, I think. But,
That's
uh, but I,
right.
but I love speed. I used to love it. I still love it. Um, so yeah, that's
I
one.
haven't raced motorcycles myself, but I've been involved a little bit in the motorcycling in the racing industry with a company that manufactured brake fluids. So it was a really interesting industry to be in, but
Yeah.
definitely haven't been on a bike going around a track. How about a book that's influenced your thinking? Something that's deeply influenced your thinking over the past few
Yeah.
years?
So, there are many books. As you know, I read a lot, John. I think I'm on my
Yeah.
712th book right now. Um, but I think one that has been deeply transformative for me is Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah, such a good book, Viktor Frankl. Yeah,
Um, that was a very powerful book. Also, Clay Christensen's book, How Will You Measure Your Life?
agree.
Uh,
Yeah,
was a beautiful, beautiful book.
beautiful book.
Um, and then, a
He's a
third
beautiful
one for
man as well,
me.
wasn't he? Such a great
Oh
person.
my God. Amazing. Amazing. And then the third one, actually, I know you only asked me for one. The third one was
That's
Thich
all
Nhat
good.
Hanh's I Am Here, You Are
Okay,
Here.
I haven't read that. What was
It's
his name?
it's
Sorry.
beautiful. Thich Nhat Hanh. He
Okay.
was a Vietnamese monk. He was nominated for the Nobel Prize by Martin Luther King.
Got it.
Just beautiful. He's written such beautiful books, but I'm deeply influenced by his thinking. So yeah, those are the three that.
Okay, I'll have to give that one a read. How about something that like a TV series or something that you love binge watching with
Oh
family
my
or
God.
something?
Well, I think the most recent one that we watched that I love was Ted Lasso. Actually, it just is so
Yes,
beautiful,
such a
right?
good show. Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. And
So
brilliant.
much life lessons around the way to be and what matters in a very humorous way. I think so. I think that's definitely one of my favorite shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
We really enjoyed those. Used to sit down together and watch them. It was such a great show.
yeah.
How about a movie you never get tired of?
Oh my God, my favorite movie is Godfather.
The Godfather. First one?
The first one, yeah.
The
That's
first
it
one.
kept
Yeah.
getting worse as they
Mar-
get. I think the second
that
one was
first one
okay.
with
I think
Brando, yeah?
I think the third and fourth, I'm not sure needed to be made, but I think the first one was definitely. I loved it. Again, family, virtues, this notion of you can be, even if you're doing something that is not necessarily quote unquote kosher in the civilized world, you can do it with virtues, with principles in a way, right? It reminds you that the way matters
Yeah.
more. How you live your life, the values, the principles, family, service matters more than what the world
Yeah.
thinks of what you're doing.
It's so true, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Well, I've really enjoyed it. I mean, I've made a whole lot of notes as we've kind of gone along here, and I think there's three that really stand out. It's not just about an open mind; it's about an open heart. And I loved how you talked about that, having an open heart. No matter what that person or individual is like, or what you think about them, having that open heart with them was really something
Yeah,
that I'm taking away from this. I think the importance of relationships is something that I really admire about you and have admired through reading your book, and it's something that I want to be a lot more intentional about, which is, thanks very much for that. And just, I think it was the last part of your book, you talk about little actions that you can take in terms of the way you spoke about having those assets, or thinking about relationships as assets.
yeah,
Um, and then just kind of about sort of the micro practices, make it small, 1 to 5, repetition over a big kind of push that and keep it consistent, and then do it in a community. Find a community that you can work with to make these small changes together. It makes it a lot easier. So I really appreciate those. I really appreciate your time, Ashish. It's been fantastic.
Well, John, I appreciate you. I love what you're doing with the Small Giants community. We're going to talk a lot about that. Hopefully, we're going to build. I think in the world right now, every person, if there is one thing they do, is reach out and build community,
Yeah.
right? In a world that is increasingly becoming more polarizing and apart, reach out and build community. Build community with those around you, but especially build community with those who don't think like you.
Yeah.
Because in the end, they're all human. And we need these social ties, these fabric, right? We need them more now than ever. And I think if we do that with an open heart, and I'm grateful for all that you're doing, and I'm really excited as you move here and for us to kind of, amplify efforts. I think it'll make a big difference. That's what the world needs.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. Be well.
And thanks for listening to this episode of the Growing with Purpose podcast. If you're enjoying the show, then please give us a rating on Apple or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And to learn more about purpose-driven leadership, go over to smallgiants.org or follow us on social media. Until next time.